Hey there, Hepcats, Cool Kittens, diesel-powered disciples of cool. Welcome back to a very special episode of the Dieselpunk podcast. We are back in 2021, and we've got some very special guests joining me on the show tonight. Our regular co-hosts were not able to make it, so it worked out perfectly that we have in the waiting room, in the green room with us, and I'll bring him on, the creator, writer, co-creator, writer of Broken Gargoyles, Bob Salley. How you doing, Bob?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. I think you were probably one of the first people that I gave the digital copy of before it even hit print.
Yeah, that's right. We reviewed it last spring or summer on the program, and
who also, better to review it first? You know, the master of Dieselpunk.
Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. And also in the green room is Dr. Christy Blanche, co-writer of the upcoming series, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. So let's catch people up. What we are talking about is Broken Gargoyles.
I love that logo. That logo is done by Rick Bloom.
It's fantastic. So last spring or summer, Bob sent us a digital copy of issue 1 of Broken Gargoyles, and we had a lot of fun reading it. But it was in digital, and we didn't have a hard copy. And then Bob sent me the digital copies about a month or two ago of issue number 2 and issue number 3. This is a 3-issue series that follows the adventures of these two main characters, the character in the center and this gentleman with the face mask. So, Bob, if you don't mind, would you kind of recap the story thus far?
So the story is about these two vets from World War I who come home and they are disfigured, and one is looking for redemption for the things that they did during the war, and the other one is looking for revenge for what was done to him. And not only what was done to them in the war, but how they were received when they came back. World War I vets, when they came home, had a much different experience than the vets that are coming home now. But in the same respect, things haven't changed too much. When I've spoken to a lot of my friends that are vets, and when I came across a story, actually researching for another story, and I wanted to put these characters into this one shot that I was doing, but when I researched it, it was like a post-Civil War story. So when I was researching it, I was like, well, it doesn't make sense. So I kind of put it on the back burner. And then the more and more that I wanted to write it, the more and more I started doing research on, these men that they named themselves these Broken Gargoyles, and they were facially mutilated, and they survived. And then there was doctors and artists that put together ceramic prosthetics that these people could go back into society. But at the same time, these people, when they tried to find a job, nobody wanted to hire them. They had a hard time going back into their family life. A lot of them became homeless. A lot of them became alcoholics, and a lot of them ended up, committing suicide because of this. And the more and more that I researched it, the more and more I realized how much we interact with our faces, with our, facial expressions. And it just kind of moved me to think that to have that taken away from you and live in a world where, people weren't as sensitive to those things. So I knew that there was a story there, and I just kept researching it more and more. And the more I researched it, and I'm sure Christina Blanche will be able to attest to it, as you research this time period in America, it's like, you think about the Roaring 20s, but there was like a much darker side to the 20s. And when I started writing it, Travis McIntyre, the genius that he, is, pains me to say that, he said, make it a Dieselpunk. And then when I thought to do it as a Dieselpunk, the more and more I researched, it was like the 1920s word Dieselpunk. Like it just fit.
Yeah.
And so it was taking these two characters that were, together during World War I, and they were, they were on each other's side. They were friends. They were, brothers in arms. And then for them to come home and be on two separate paths in this story made it, for me, it made it more interesting to kind of see like the different sides of what people come home with, like where, in everyday life, you deal with people and it's, whether they have the same experiences, it's their mentality that changes the way they act upon the things they experience, if that makes any sense. So these characters definitely, went through the same thing. And when they got back, they were taking a different approach on what to do with it.
Outstanding. And you mentioned the magic word Dieselpunk. And just for our viewers, I'm going to show some of the pages here. Let me bring this up so that you guys can see. Here's one of the pages from issue 3 with this awesome kind of it's kind of like that machine in the Avatar film on Pandora with the arms and the guns, and it's this big exoskeleton built on top of a Jeep, and then and you got some flying aircraft carriers. I loved what I loved most was the black and white flashbacks. And here you have one of the walking mechs with these really banana, appendages. And this is actually during World War I. Yes. This flashback. And so I loved that you put in these mechs, and they're kind of like what were those characters from Mad
Max?
Well, and
Fury Road.
Well, and I was thinking of the characters in the Dark Crystal. Were like that.
Well, what's funny is if you watch Fury Road, when they go through that swamp area, the people were on stilts and they were kind of going through it. But I know exactly what you're talking about, and I didn't put the two together until now. But those are my plague doctors. I wanted to do like a Dieselpunk plague doctor that were going out and collecting the dead and from the dead and the wounded from the battlefront. And Staniak did a great job putting them to visual.
I want a model of this vehicle with the big ball as a wheel in the front. That looks fantastic,
right?
Yeah, and that's the third or fourth page in issue 1. You've got this very
that was when.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, when I was writing it, I wanted to make it. I'm always a big fan of letting the art and letting the story tell what's going on. And so obviously when I was working with Stan, I was like, I don't want to be like, this is Dieselpunk. But I wanted that was like one of the reasons why I love the logo so much, because you look at the logo and it just, right away it's Dieselpunk. You could have nothing on that cover and just the logo. And that Rich Bloom, I told him, I said, this is what I want. I want Broken Gargoyles and I want the O's to be gears. Make it happen, and then I want people when they see it to just scream Dieselpunk. And he did a great job. I mean, like I still to this day, like I just love that logo every time I look at it. Like
I have been calling this book the most Dieselpunk comic to date.
Thank you.
And that is, there were a couple.
That's a huge compliment.
Well, thank you. and you're right up there with the releases of the recent years, Moonshine and Bitter Root and Adventure Man, and man, you guys knocked it out of the park.
Thank you.
Now,
I really appreciate it.
And from that respect, with the military aspect, it may be actually the most Dieselpunk comic of the last year. Talk about this cover, the white cover.
So that was so of course if you read it, you'll see that this one crew, they go to a circus, a carnival, to find one of their brothers in arms who is kind of a circus freak. And when we did that, Stan just made that. Like, he just was, he probably should have been working on pages, but he did that art, and we posted it, and everybody loved it. I mean, I love it. It's so fitting for, again, if you read it and you know the scene, it fits. But it's just an awesome cover, and I had Raymond Gay and Jeremy Clark and Juan Fernandez do the covers, because I wanted Stan to stick to doing the pages, and it was something like, I'm always a fan of. I know a lot of people are like, they don't like other artists doing the covers, but I'm a production guy, and I get the artist doing the pages, and then I want to find another team to do the cover, and just keep the wheels rolling. But it was great that Stan did this, and he actually did a bunch of he did a couple other variant covers for stores, but that was one that we didn't use, and it was just kind of sitting there. And then Jonathan Hall from Hive Comics, he asked us what we were doing with it for, and he asked if he could do a variant for issue 2. So we got the go ahead for it, and I love it.
I would love to have this as a frameable poster print.
Cheers, man. I'll make it happen.
No, I think you ought to make it as part of your merch line if you haven't thought about that already. This is just a great piece. And so at the and I saw another panel here I wanted to hold up of the sky ship, the battleship. Where'd it go here? I'll find. Oh, here it is. Here, I'll bring this up. Here's an image of the battleship. Very, a style that our listeners and viewers are very in tune with, and just great work. Now, this 3-part. I don't want to. Hold on. We got to put this up for just a minute. Spoiler alert. Issue number 3 ends with the lead character. What was his name again?
His name's William Manco.
Manco. Manco is in the desert, and he is approached by a very steampunking-looking marshal. Yep. And I'm guessing that is here. I'll bring this up a little bit bigger. And I'm guessing, Bob, this is setting up the next story that Christine is co-writing with you.
That is right.
So,
go ahead.
Tell us about that.
So I knew where I was going with this whole thing. I had this from issues 1 through 9, and obviously I've known Christina for years now, and she's such a peach. I just, I love her. The Damnation of Charlie Wormwood was an amazing book, and I just respect her so much for her work ethic and her writing, that the next story that we're telling is takes place in a farmland, and it has these 3 strong female characters in it, and I felt like who better to bring in to give their voice some authenticity than Dr. Christy Blanche. And she's been awesome. Like, we're working with her. Like, I already have a project like next year that I want to work with her on. I haven't talked to her about it yet, but we spoke for about an hour, like probably an hour and a half on the phone, talking about the next story, and just talking to her. I had my ideas, but then talking to her, she got, she put some stuff out, and it was like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. And that's what you want with your, collaborating with a co-writer. Is this isn't, I keep telling her, I'm like, this isn't my story anymore. Like, this is our story. So, and I think the most important thing about collaborating and co-writing is, you don't come in with an ego. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about the story. And, I know Christina well enough that, I know that that's her mentality. That the most important thing is the end result that we put out. And it's not, who did what or who's taking credit. It's the story is the hero.
Yeah, that's outstanding. And Scott Saunders from Dieselpunk Industries is piping in with, hi guys, Scott from Dieselpunk Industries here. Good to have you, Scott. And Luis Felipe Vasquez just says Morgan. I don't know
hello, Morgan.
Morgan. Do we know?
I don't know. It might be somebody tagged. Maybe he tagged somebody on it.
Could be. So those of you who are watching, you can interact with us. Post a comment, post a question for our guests. So, Christy, blow your own horn for a minute. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you've done, and how you got wrangled into being a part of this.
Well, this is Poe. He apparently wanted to be a part of this. I started. Well, I wrote a book, The Damnation of Charlie Wormwood, and Travis, who I think is one of the most greatest. He's just a great human being. He wanted to publish it, so I kind of came over to Source Point Press, and then I met Bob and his salvagers, and he has done so much work that is just incredible. What do I do? I own All Yeah Comics in Muncie, Indiana. That's my comic book shop, and we have a show that we do live, which I just finished, 4 times a week, soon 6 times a week. What we do in the comic shop, because I'm a huge What We Do in the Shadows fan. And I write. Bob was kind enough to ask me if I would come aboard Broken Gargoyles, which I said yes without even thinking about it, because 1, it's Bob, and 2, the story is just outstanding. It's so, the characters are so much fun, and I thought it would be really fun to work on it, but I didn't realize how much fun it would be to work on it. I like sending Bob texts and saying, hey, can we do this? And he'll go, you're not right. I'm like, I know, Bob. But we've had a blast so far. The first issue's almost done. It's almost done, Bob. That much more. It's been interesting. The research has been so much fun. I love research. I come from my doctorate is in education, and so it was mostly research. And I love researching, but there's so many rabbit holes. Bob can tell you there's so many rabbit holes you can go down when you're searching this. And I'm putting all the movies on in the background as I write. It's like, you got Dark City and you've got Mad Max. And so I've got all of these things going. And I played Borderlands 3, to prepare. You have to do things like that. And it's just it's a fun ride. And Bob, the story that Bob has come up with, and don't let him kid you. This is his. He did this. It's an incredible story, and it's going to be a fun ride for everyone to be on.
Well, and listen, I've been reading a lot of Bob's work over the last year. Bob Ogres was great.
Oh. So good.
Love that. And the artwork on that was so I love that watercolor style coloring and just beautiful, beautiful artwork. But, we're here to talk about your book, but let's talk about Source Point Press for just a moment. And that's a mouthful.
Pages.
What's that?
Look at those. These.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful.
They're incredible.
So are those hand colored? Hand painted?
Yep.
He's a friggin' genius.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I had your mic.
Sorry, it's Sean Daly did those, and yes, that's all hand done. He's amazing, and he's such a special human being too.
You know what? Maybe I need to talk to him about my project, The League of Impossibilists. I don't know if you've been following that at all, Bob, but it's a webcomic that is based on my original cosplay characters from my novel series, Tales of the Decoverse, and we did it completely backwards. We created these cosplay characters, then I started writing a book series about them, and one of the members said, we should do a comic book series. And I was like, okay. And so he started drawing and then sending me the pages to ink, but no story. So I have to create the story from what he's already drawn. Usually it's the other way around, right? You write the story.
Yeah, exactly. But that said, though, I've always wanted to do it that way. Sean and I have actually talked about it where, like it's all drawn out and then you come up with the story. And I think that would be I think that'd be a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. It's been very, very interesting. And Luis Felipe Vasquez says, whoa, beautiful work on that. Yeah.
They're amazing. He's amazing.
But I got to tell you, Source Point Press, they came on the scene just recently, I guess last year or the year before. They're still a small press publisher, but man, are they putting quality into their books. Mm-hmm. They did Gutter Magic. They did the Boston Metaphysical Society. Adler. Did they do Adler? Is that them too?
No.
Okay.
They did Nora.
Nora. Yeah. But great paper stock. Mm-hmm. The cover stock is great. And here's what I love most about their books. The ink doesn't come off on my fingers. That's a big complaint I have with the big two right now. Marvel is the worst about it. Yeah. I have so many covers with fingerprints in them because the blacks come off, and they're generating some amazing quality and keeping it only $3.99, where the big publishers are going at $4.99. And I think issue 3 of Broken Gargoyles, it feels like a 32 page.
It's close. I mean, obviously, when you know about comic books and how they're made, and the sheet 16, and you gotta keep it within 32 from cover to cover, or you're gonna have to throw a whole nother 16 sheet down, and then that's gonna raise the price. I've learned so much stuff working at Source Point Press. So when I turn in a script and it's got 34 pages, and they're like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to cut some pages down." So now it's like in my brain is like, shoot for 24. If you go to 26, it's okay. If you go to 22, so that's the general rule of thumb, at least that I do. But yeah, Source Point Press has been amazing. I came out with Salvagers in 2014, and I was self-publishing it slowly through Kickstarter. And Rick Remender, I actually talked to Rick Remender once at a convention, and I asked him to give me some tips, and he just said, write, and then do as many cons as you can. So, it wasn't easy for me to do cons, but, I was trying to just
money.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, I'm going with 3 issues of a comic book that nobody knows about. So, but I tried, I did New York. I shared a table at New York back in the day, and, paid my dues and did all the things where it was just hustling. And, but through those travels, because Source Point Press did so many shows, there was always somebody from Source Point Press at a show that I was doing. And it was finally at C2E2. And it was Gary Reed who actually did Caliber.
Yeah.
I first pitched Salvagers to, and he said, you should talk to Travis McIntyre at Source Point Press. So at the time, I thought Gary was just pushing me off. But then at C2E2, I went over to introduce person to person, introduce myself to Gary Reed. He introduced me to Travis, and I'm looking, and it's just horror. All they have is horror books. And so I'm really thinking now that Gary's pushing me off. Like, you're pushing my sci-fi book off to a horror publisher. But I met Gary, Greg Wright, I met Casey Pierce, and I met Josh Warner and Travis McIntyre. And you could just tell there was an energy around their booth, and you could just tell that they were going somewhere. That this wasn't a vanity press. This wasn't something where, somebody wanted to write their comic book and they're like, I'm going to create my own publisher because, Image won't take it. You could see that this was something, and talking to Travis McIntyre, you could see that he had a destination, he had a purpose, and he had a goal. And I loved that the way we talked was you could see that he wanted to do a lot with my property. He wanted to do a lot with Salvagers. So that made me feel comfortable. Like, I want to bring this on. And I think also, he kind of felt like we want to not just be horror. We want to take on, sci-fi. And I think through independent publishing, I kind of built up a little bit of a fan base. So, you're thinking like, well, it'd be nice to bring his fan base in. But, they've overexceeded every expectation that I ever had when I joined them. And to this day, Travis continues to, really change the game for comic books. So I couldn't be happier. I love that you noticed the quality of printing that they're doing and the quality of stories that they're putting out there. So you can see when you're at conventions, it's this feeling like when you're you're in the booth and you just start seeing like these people coming over, and they're accomplished artists themselves, and they're like, I want to be a part of this. And it's really becoming like a really awesome family over there.
Well, go ahead, Christy.
It's also that everybody there appreciates everybody else, and they push everybody else. And you don't just sell, your books, you sell everybody's books. Everybody there is there for everybody else. It's nothing like I've seen before in comics. It's just remarkable. Remarkable.
What I love about what they're doing is they're not afraid to be really creative and to do stuff that nobody else is doing. I get asked all the time by people who like comics, but they don't like superheroes necessarily, what they should be reading. And 9 times out of 10, I'm pointing them to a Source Point press book. We got a comment here from Luis. It's so fine watching you guys. Me and Morgan, we are Dieselpunk aesthetic fans here in Brazil, but the scene sadly is very small. People here are still into steampunk, which is great, but just not Diesel. Very few books and comics yet, for example. Well, Luis, you need to listen to some past episodes of the Dieselpunk podcast, because I talk about Dieselpunk comics every episode, and there's a lot that have been out there, especially in the last year. Maybe it's time for me to do another episode just on that, just for you, Louise. I'll turn you on to what you need to be reading. But Christy, so you own a comic book shop?
I do. Or I'm in my back room right now. Don't look around. Yeah, I own Oh Yeah Comics in Muncie, Indiana. It's we're a little store, but with a big heart.
Yeah.
I'm partner. Well, I own this store, but Art and Franco and Mark Hammond and some other people own the Oh Yeah Comics in Skokie, and then we all went together and opened the one in Harrison, New York. So we're not a chain, but we're just a bunch of people who like each other that are doing Oh Yeah Comics.
Well, it's a lot of people will say even today there are people in the fandom scene that are a little bit toxic that say attractive women have no place in the comics world.
That happens, really?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And not only are you a comic fan and a comic writer, but you're a comic shop owner.
I also did my doctoral dissertation on comic book scholars because I've written articles and do presentations, and I've taught classes about comic books and learning gender through comic books and learning social issues through comic books. And but yes, I do sometimes people will walk past me to a customer and ask them a question, and I'll just watch. I'll just watch, you know. Sometimes I'll go, oh my gosh, these books have pictures in them, you know.
That's fantastic. And Christy Stoltz says the best comic shop.
Christy Stoltz is awesome. She's one of my favorite customers.
So
we went to Star Wars, and so we hung out at Star Wars Celebration last year when we used to have conventions.
Well, we will again. And one of the things I do, I have another podcast called Back of the Cereal Box.
Oh, nice.
And basically the concept is there came a day, unlike any other day, when the question was asked, wouldn't it be cool if we could just get together with our best friends on a Saturday morning, have a big bowl of cereal, watch cartoons, and talk about cool geek culture stuff that we love? And the resounding answer was, well, yes, we can. And that's how the podcast was born. And we're doing a series on our YouTube channel where we're going to brick and mortar comic shops.
Nice.
And spotlighting them, interviewing the owners, the people who work there, and getting them out to our viewers. And so maybe we'll need to come up to Muncie, Indiana.
Yeah.
It's not that far from Nashville.
It actually isn't. I've been to Nashville many times. It's fun. I've really enjoyed. It's a lot of work. You know, one of my customers before they learned came up to me and said, "Man, you've got the best job in the world. It's so easy. You just get to sit around and read comics all day." And I was like, "When was the last time I actually read a comic in here?" I live above the store, so I sometimes can read them up there, but it's so much work, and especially now in this client or this culture that we're in right now with we only allow so many people in the shop at a time, and everything that's going on. It's been a real struggle to stay open. But
yeah,
I only work when I'm like, ooh, it's just a 14-hour day. All right, then that's good. Then I go upstairs and write. And Bob's like, hey, you need to write some more. Just kidding, but you're good.
Now,
yeah,
we have a few more comments here. Scott Saunders says, check out Comixology. They have Broken Gargoyles. Yes, they do. And I will say that comics on that digital platform, like on an iPad or an Amazon Kindle Fire, are gorgeous. However, I will just say that having read Broken Gargoyles both ways, in digital and in print, I think this was a book that was made to be read in print.
That book is made for print, and the art is just it's astounding. The layouts are great. The story is, Bob, you already know, I think your story is spectacular. So it is. And I like Comixology a lot. I like being able to go, when I used to travel before all this, and you don't have to take a pile of books this big. You can just take, your iPad. And I got the iPad the size of a comic book page.
Yeah.
Just so that I could have that same experience. So that is nice, but there's something to holding it. And I think especially with this Dieselpunk comic because it's such a tactile idea, with that, I think it just adds to it. And people flip back and forth and going, "Oh my gosh, did you what? What?"
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you. And Scott Saunders says, "Dude, to live above a comic shop,
yeah,
that's either a dream or a nightmare."
Both. It's both, but it's great because my UPS driver will go, "Hey, I've got a package," and it'll be before, I'm like, "I'll be right down." Just run down the stairs.
That's fantastic.
It's actually been a lifesaver in this situation because when we were shut down, we weren't even supposed to be at work. Well, this technically is still my home, So
you can invite people in.
Came to work
Right.
yesterday.
So here in Nashville, there was only a brief period of time that comic shops were shut down in comparison to a lot of other places in the country. But they all started doing curbside delivery.
Yep.
And actually saw their sales go up by about 30%. And when I talked with one of the owners, it was because people were stuck at home, starved for tactile entertainment.
Oh yeah. No, it's true. We've been doing well. I mean, we're doing well, but working a lot harder.
Yeah.
And it's just me and my son. He works here, a couple hours a day. And so it's basically just me here, working and working and working. But I've learned so much about mail order. I've learned so much about packaging. I can tell you all about the USPS, everything. It's and I pride myself on my packaging. I do I work to get everything there. I knew none of this before, so it's been this huge learning curve. And then doing the sales online has been, we were doing 10 shows a week, 10 live shows a week, and still do, because, when they didn't put out new comics, we had to do something.
Right.
Because we still had to pay all of our bills somehow.
That drove me crazy, by the way. They had comics stacked up at Diamond's warehouse, and nobody could get them.
Nope.
It was insanity.
You can still hardly get them.
Yeah.
But no, it was a crazy time, and I thought, well, I'll just get a lot of writing done. But I working then, I was working all the time. It's football season, I take Bears games off. Now I'm good, but now I'm rooting for his team.
Chiefs,
man. So that drives my son crazy. He hates them, but he likes Tom Brady. No.
Well, I'm a Cleveland Browns guy, so
Dude,
I'm from Akron, Ohio.
They were awesome. I was so proud of them, man. Can you even believe that?
Yeah. Hopefully they don't choke in the next game like they normally do.
I was watching 60 Minutes and I turned it over and I was like, 34-0. How long has this been on? I thought it was,
So, Bob, tell us now what is the next chapter? Do kind of a teaser for the new story, Sin and
Virtue.
Sin and Virtue.
Now,
Sin and Virtue. So, what's that? The cover.
cover.
The cover is amazing by Francesco Francavilla. Which
Yes. Oh, I should have uploaded a copy of that. Hold on, maybe I can find it.
All the credit for landing that shark. The cover is just amazing.
He did an amazing job. I'm sure I have it here. Bob, I got to send you this picture that I have for reference. It's amazing. Sorry, I just saw it.
All right.
So
I don't know if you can see this well, but
it's just an amazing cover.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I've already talked to Sean or Josh Warner. I told him, I was like, I want you to send me a post, a version of it where I can take it and get a poster made of it, because I'm framing that and hanging it up. I will. Yes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I can't find the image on a quick Google search, but you know what? I do have a copy of it somewhere, and I will post it on the Dieselpunk podcast page on Facebook, because I'm a huge fan of Francavilla's work. I love those artists who can create these beautiful images with what I call an economy of lines. I respect that so much. Guys like him and Doc Evan Shaner and Chris Samnee, Dan Parent, those guys, I love that just super clean, crisp style of artwork. And
absolutely. So one of the things when Christina agreed to do this, I knew that it's a new story. So I was like, I want to do everything new. I'm bringing Christina on. We have a new artist. I want to put in, so I was like, I want new covers. I want different covers. And I had my idea of like, that post World War I kind of artwork that you see on posters and poster boards. So I asked her, I said, who's the cover art? Who would you want? If you could have anybody, who would you want? And she said Frank Avila. So and I looked at his art. I mean, I knew him, and I went through his art, and I'm like, this is exactly what I want. Like, this is what I am imagining for this. So to get into what Broken Gargoyles Sin and Virtue is, it's it's going into the American farmland, and which is, again, like, while I was researching this, I was researching everything, and researching the American farmland post World War I. It was a lot of farmlands were going into foreclosure, bankruptcy, and it was because they were feeding. They were feeding the war. They were feeding the world, basically, and they put all their resources into their farms. But then after the war was over, France and all them, they're like, well, we need to get our farmlands going again. So then they went from their production or their need actually went way down, and that's why they all started failing. So we really go into that, and then of course the characters from the first one are going to be involved in this. But what I want, the story follows these two women who have neighboring farms, and they both lost their husbands, and so they kind of come together to help each other out to keep their farms going. But you can imagine, how hard it is, not just, but for anybody to keep these farms going, especially while there are, men who want to own that land and men that want to foreclose on it because they want it. So, again, main reason why I wanted to bring Christina in, because I wanted to give these women, their voices, authenticity. And, it's co-writing. If you're going to co-write and you're going to have women as the main protagonists, it's probably good to bring a woman on who can say, like, yeah, that doesn't sound like something a girl would say. So, it helps out to make the story. The story is the most important thing, is make an authentic story. I was just having such a hard time with it. But so I'm like, I knew that we had a deadline, and I am like dragging my feet on this thing. And then I don't want to get too much into it, but when I had like my huzzah moment, it was to dive into Prescott's past after, but like what happened to him after World War I. And when I came up with it, I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, this is perfect for Christina, because this woman went into prisons and taught the prisoners. So, who better to put into, a hospital and say, like, no, this is what we're going to do. And again, I don't want to get too much into it, but we're going to keep going with what, and again, like, while you're writing it, it's like, it all started clicking, where I was like, in the first story, we went back in time to a flashback to the war. So now in this story, we're going to be flashback to Prescott and his journey to becoming who he is, which I'm really excited.
I'm having way too much fun in those scenes, though. Way too much.
Right, fun. And this is where she was writing something to me, and I was like, "You're bleeped up," but she knows she is, and it's perfect.
That's fantastic. So hey, we have a few more comments here, and not about Broken Gargoyles, but Scott wants to know, Dr. Blanche, do we know why we haven't seen Adventure Man #5?
I don't know. Now, they did just put out the oversized version of.
I got it for Christmas. It's gorgeous. It's so awesome.
Mike Allred is just. It's a great story. It really surprised me about how much I loved it. I have a feeling it's coming along. I know a lot of things the schedules got all messed up with the COVID, with putting this back, and everybody's still trying to get their things together. I don't know why we haven't, but I'm ready for it. I'm just as anxious for it as you are, but you know what? We've got Broken Gargoyles coming out soon.
That's right. And Scott also mentioned as an artist, Alex Toth,
Oh.
one of those artists who, can use an economy of lines.
There are the
Economy
large
of lines,
size
I like
books of his are incredible, just incredible. I have a hard time selling those. I'm like, no, I want to keep this in the store. Just leave it here. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, for those of you who are watching, any questions or additional comments for Bob or Christy? I can't wait for Sin and Virtue.
Yeah. So it's coming out. It was going to come out March in Previews World, but now it is going to be the first volume is going to be collected and hitting March previews, and then issue 1. Yeah. So anybody that missed it can come back again. This was put out in previews during like smack dab into COVID. So, and a lot of, I was all for it. I was like, let's just do it because I think like it's like you said, people want content. People want something. They're home, like give them something. So, but if people missed it because of that, now you can get a collected version of it in March. You can order it in March, and then April, May, June will be issues 1, 2, and 3 of Broken Gargoyles, Sin and Virtue.
Well, and one sold out like crazy. I mean, I thought I over-ordered. I order everything Source Point Press. I'm just going to disclose that. I have a whole section for it because I love everything that they put out. And I thought I over-ordered. I was hoping I over-ordered on Broken Gargoyles, but now I'm desperately trying to find number ones. I have one that I was going to send away to CTC for you, Bob. But now I'm like, this is my reference copy. He can't have this one.
I don't even have any copies.
Well, you sent me a signed one.
I think that might have been my last one. Well, no, this cover. This is my last one.
This cover on the shelf just jumps out at you and screams, "Look at me, pick me up." Now, I had the hardest time getting issue number 2 in print. And Bob, I'd read it in digital, but until you sent me a signed copy, I could not find issue 2 anywhere in any store I visited.
That's good news. I like hearing that.
And that tells me what happened was that, retailers under-ordered issue 2, and it was so popular that they sold out of issue 2. And then issue 3 has been kind of hit and miss for me. Some places had it, some places were sold out, but I love it when an issue 2 is completely sold out in the stores that I go to, because it tells me that they did the right, they were connecting with fans.
Yeah, what happened?
Funny, I had my kids when issue 1 came out. I had my kids that weekend, so I had them. I usually get them Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday. So I'm thinking like, all right, it was after I dropped them off, and I'm like, all right, Tuesday, I started calling shops, and because I wanted to go get it, so I called my shop that I usually go to, and they're like, they put 3 aside for me. By the time I got there the next day, they had a new guy who sold them.
Oh no!
But it was great. Like I called like 5 shops, and they were sold out of them. So I was like, I didn't get my copy, but like, it's good that they're selling out, especially again, like in this temper, the way the world is with COVID. So I was really happy about that. And, it's a special book to me. Like, I think the work that went into it, with the research and the story that we're telling, it means something. So it wasn't so much about the numbers, like a lot of people get caught up in the numbers, but it was the fact that most of the people, I'm getting a lot of feedback on the story. When I talk to people, it's great to hear that like the story's hitting them. So I've always said when I started writing comics, self-publishing, and had buying my own tables at Boston Comic-Con, and saying like if I sell 5 books and I walk away with 2 of those 5 books, 2 of those people being fans, I'm happy. So I really try to keep that. I really try to keep that as my mentality even now. is that if I just find a new fan every now and then I'm going to keep doing it.
That's awesome. And speaking of, Dieselpunk standard bearers, Tony Snipes just popped in saying, yo.
Yo, Tony.
And Bob, I don't know. Have you seen his Portsmouth Airship Building Company project?
I have not. And how you doing, Tony? Thanks for joining.
Dude, you have got
Tony
got
Snipes.
to
I'm going to find him.
Yeah. The Portsmouth Airship Building Company. When you see this, you're going to fall in love with his artwork and with this entire project. It's phenomenal. And Scott Sanders says, "Hey, Tony," and he says, "Hello. Hey, we're having a chat board on the show."
I'm going to see that, and I'm going to hit Tony up, and I'm going to be like, "I want to do some art with you."
You really are. Once you see what he has done with this project, you're going to want to have him on board with a future Broken Gargoyles project for sure.
I'm in.
I promise it will happen.
Can I just say something about the comics that Bob
Sure.
wherever you are now? So the greatest thing that I saw, as retailers, you order a lot of number ones and then you order less number twos.
Yep.
But I didn't do that on Broken Gargoyles because I just knew. And I'll tell you what, when you run out of number twos and you order the same amount, you know it's a good story.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, and I have very few number twos left. And a couple people bought several number ones. So I did, one to keep, not read, and then one here. I should have ordered way more. I should have. But people came back for it because it's a good story. It's a good story. And the hook at the end of number one is so good. So good.
Yeah. It really is.
I can't wait for number two for the second volume, the second arc to come out. It's going to be, I think that it's going to have so much more depth to it with these new characters, and it's really gonna punch you in the gut.
And I love the idea of putting the volume out before it comes out, because a lot of people didn't get to check out number one because it just wasn't there. So by doing that, you're like, hey, we're thinking of you. Here's the story. Here's the next one.
Well, and I want to encourage people who are watching this, don't wait until the collected edition comes out. Go buy issues 1, 2, and 3 in the floppy singles
You can find
now, if you can find them, and then buy the collected trade paperback as well.
Yes.
And I do that with everything I love, Bob, and here's why. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I'll just wait until the collection comes out, or I'll wait until the trade comes out. And I'm like, if everyone did that, you wouldn't have a trade.
Exactly.
Right.
You gotta buy the single issues. You gotta support these guys with the single issues. And then you know what I do? I get the trade that goes on my bookshelf, and the single issue floppies, I'll use them as gifts. I'll say, hey,
the best.
Let me turn you on to something.
I always I'm not a collector. Sorry.
Yeah, neither am I. I'm a reader.
I'm always, if I get a book, if I get books through Kickstarter, a lot of times, I have piles of these books. And when I have done my Kickstarters in the past and I'm shipping things out, I know the people that are those constant fans that keep coming back more, I'll take those books and I'll stick it in their package, and I'm giving them a little bonus. And then that way, if they like it, then they're being turned on to somebody else's story. So
right.
I love that. That's the greatest thing you could do, is just give somebody, that you think might be into it, to turn them on to it.
I call it random acts of comics.
Yep.
So we are coming up against the hour, guys. This is an hour-long show. I can't believe we had that much to talk about. It's awesome. So I'm not going to get to my Shadow in the Cloud review. I will just say that I loved it. It is totally Dieselpunk. And if you like World War II action adventure, intense drama with scary little gremlin monsters, you're going to love this movie.
Nice.
That's all I'll say. Yeah. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Any last words before we say goodnight?
Support your local.
No, just thank you for having us. Yeah. And again, yeah. And if you are looking for Broken Gargoyles and you want to read them before the trade comes out, you can contact your local comic shop. Hopefully they have it. If not, you can go to oximedia.com. You can go look under their Source Point Press Comics tab. They have issues 1, 2, and 3 in there, and they are ready to ship out. So oximedia.com, go there, and if you're going to order that, order some other stuff too, and support
Ogres,
comic book writers.
Get Ogre and Ogres. It's tremendous. And if you like Dungeons and Dragons at all, anybody who plays Dungeons and Dragons, I'm like, here. And they're like, I'm not sure. And I'm like, I'll give you your money back if you don't like it. Nobody has gotten their money back.
That's fantastic. Well, guys, we got
He's awesome.
2 last comments here. Dieselpunk Industries, they are actually airing Shadow in the Cloud.
Nice.
So tv.dieselpunkindustries.com/Shadow in the Cloud. And Felice says, have a happy 2021 and all the success in the world. Thank you,
Louise.
Thank you so much.
And Scott says, keep making good stuff. We'll do our best, buddy.
Scott,
we appreciate it.
You're going to love this next arc. You're going to love it. It's so much
Because of her. No, because of her.
That's going to be fantastic. I can't wait. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in. If you like this show, make sure you share it. Tell 200 or 300 of your closest friends and family to come share the Dieselpunk fun. And until the next time, we'll catch you on the flip side. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.